welcome back. When we last left When we last left off, we were looking at the possible provisions. Hey guys, when we last left off, we were looking at the provision section, which is sort of the extra fun side bits that is everything that you use as a DM, tool-wise, reference-wise, that's not strictly related to a particular campaign. Before I get into that, I do want to make one correction from the last video, which is the name of the different sections. I sort of messed up a little bit when recording and didn't catch it until too late. But the 4 sections are supposed to be present, provisions, previous, and possible. The key one there is possible that I missed last time. The idea is that you're organizing these into what you're working on right now, what you were doing, and what you would like to do, with the provisions sections functioning as the sort of extra bits. So in my provision section, I start off with this page, which you can see the drop down when I highlight it, which is called the 5 Realms. What that is actually a setting cheat sheet for me. It has a bunch of information that's specifically just setting information, starting with the truths section, some links to the campaigns that are actually in this setting, and then breakdowns like people's, places, and such. All of these are toggles which allow me to drop them down and have even more information underneath each one, descriptions, things like that, for anything that I'm sort of rewriting and redoing on my own lore-wise. The places section will let me have forms of government, cities, things like that, and I can always link particular episodes or campaigns in here as well if I so choose. The truths section is actually based off of the Sly Flourish book, Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, which I can't recommend enough. It's pretty amazing. And these are basically facts, statements, truths, if you will, that are bullet points for this particular setting, what makes it unique, what's special about it. Going back to the My Provision section, the next item I have here is Monsters, which is actually a page with a database in it. So if you were to remake this, what you would do is type /page to make a new page. And then inside that page, you're quickly going to see the actual monsters database that I have here, but above that, I actually have this toggle right here. When you go to create a database, and we'll show you down here, when you go to create a database, you can type /data, and you're going to get 2 options, an inline database or a full page database. A full page database just makes, well, a page, and inside that page is a database and nothing but a database. The inline version is kind of what you see here, where I'm inside a page, but the database itself is sort of a sub-item on that page. I can actually drag it and move it around here. The reason I do this pertains mostly to moving over to DC20 for me. The way that this works for me is this toggle actually has a empty stat block and 2 screenshots for helping me to make monsters. So I can actually grab this, and I'll move this one to the side a little bit over here. So what this allows me to do is have an empty stat block that I can just fill in using the table over here, some references over here, and then when I'm done with that, I can actually create a new monster by copying the stat block that I filled out. So if I go over here to a new monster, which I actually created recently, you'll see that I actually had filled out that stat block, and then I just copy and pasted it right in here. So if I were to mimic that here, let's say, I would copy it and then I would paste it, and right now it's blank, but imagine there were numbers in there. So that's how that would work. And then once that new monster is created, I can then put monster art in here if I so choose. And then when I'm not making a new monster in that fashion, I can just shrink up the toggle, and then the rest of this page is a monsters database for me to use. So for example, I have this elite sheet ghost that I made earlier. I won't pretend to be the best expert at balanced. I don't swear necessarily by any of these stats, but they're good enough for me and they're good enough for my table. And I love the artwork. Anytime you click on one of these, it's going to open up in this side page. Now, when you create a database for the first time, you are going to see it look a little bit like this. This is the table view. And in here, you can better customize the properties that you have. So for example, I have one property here that I really don't use, but I have here, for example, which is called system. And it's a type of property called a select property. It basically lets you pick options from a list. And you can add all kinds of properties to this, checkboxes, numbers, you name it. You can click the plus button up here, and then you can add all kinds of different properties to your database. So it can get pretty intensive. If you want to change this to look like the cards view that I have, what you're going to do is click these 3 dots over here, go to the layout and change the layout to a gallery view. And once you change it to a gallery view, that's when you're going to get those cards. I usually like to have one tab up here that is my main view and one tab up here that is the table view so that I can more quickly and easily change the properties of items in here or sort them. And every view, table or otherwise, gives you the ability to filter things. So I can filter by name, by system, or sort things. So I can sort as well. For example, I could go over here, I could create a new property called level, and then I could sort all of my monsters by level. That's not how I do it, but you could easily do that. Databases can get very involved and very powerful. You can check out my first ever video, Notion for DMing, and Notion in Motion for one master database that has everything from NPCs to monster to artwork to maps to everything in it, and how I would sort that and do that. In this particular case, I've stepped away from that over time and ended up in this spot where the only database I actually have is this monsters database. For artwork and such, I actually still prefer to use Google Drive as opposed to Notion because of how accessible it is on both my Android devices, allowing me to pull and save directly to it, whereas Notion can't quite fully do that just yet. The next item I have here on the provisions list is a character section. Now, this isn't strictly related to my tabletop games, but it seemed fitting for me to put it here. And what characters is for me are just these sub-pages of each of these characters that I have. I do have a tendency to play characters in multiple games. For example, Solana here is in Dragon Age and DnD, and others as well that I haven't written here yet. And what this allows me to do is create these toggles with backstories and information on those characters to my heart's content. So this is really just a playground for me because I love characters and building them. For example, Fenry, this is her D&D version, this is her DC-20 version, and later down here I'll be putting in her Baldur's Gate 3 version. I don't have Sing Song in here yet, but she'll get there. The next thing I have here is a page entirely dedicated to DC-20, which I put together when I started converting over to DC-20. As you can see here, there's a table with some skill challenge type stuff, sub-pages for building monsters, magazine. These are subpages for practice fights that I did way in the beginning. These are PDF attachments. These are fast links to other Notions pages I have. One is obviously back to the D&D page we just left, and the other is my channel page, which is helpful because DC-20 is both related to my games and also my channel. So having these links here allows me to go back and forth to where I need to go. And I also have a rules quick page here for me, which is just a series of toggles with rules that I either struggle with, expect to struggle with, or just would prefer quick reference to, and I can just pop them down, see what I need to see, and pop them back up. So very, very handy. I keep the rules page actually located here. You'll notice the icon for the rules page does not have that little arrow next to it. That's the difference between a link and an actual page. This is a link to my channel page, whereas this is the actual rules page. But because of that interlinking that Notions lets me do, I can put pretty much anything anywhere and structure it in whatever web-like format my heart desires. If we go back to the main page here and I go into one of my current campaigns, you'll actually see that I have done a fast link to the rules section here. So now I can just click on this and poof, go right back here to where I need to go. And from here, I can either use the crumbs up top to go back to the base page where this is located, or I can use this handy dandy backlink option where I can just click it and then go right back to the page I was on. Or in a browser window, I can just simply hit the back button. So you can start to see how you can start putting all these pages together in a way where they all connect. Another example is that 5 Realms setting page, which I have here. So I can go here and I can go to that setting page and I can look up something about elves, and then I can go here and go right back to the campaign page I was on. Easy peasy. Going back to the main page, the last item here of real significant note is the solo toolbox page I have, and all that really is a series of screenshots from the PDF Solo Adventurers Toolbox. I think I picked that up on Drive Through RPG, and all that is just some charts that I like to have at the handy so that when I am doing my solo game, which I really just do kind of here, there, everywhere when I have a few minutes of downtime, but I do enjoy doing, I can just open this up in a new tab. You can right click and open in a new tab, and then that way I can just tab back and forth between the solo campaign I'm currently working on and the references that I need. And I use a dice app on my phone usually when I'm doing that because I'm usually not home, which is this campaign here. This last page, which I don't really use very much but still keep it around, I call it Insights, and basically all it is a collection of bullet points, epiphanies, call-outs, just little errant thoughts that I have that are very central to my continued growth as a DM. I definitely would recommend having something like this. It's just a tucked away little space for me to put more personal things or thoughts that I have concerning the running of the game and anything like that. So yeah, that is my provision section. So hopefully that gives you a general idea of what you might use that for, what you might want to use that for. And of course we took a minor dive into the database portion of it. And like I said, databases is almost an entire video in and of itself. And every time previous to this recording, every time I tried to make that video, I was coming up short. So I'll go ahead and leave it at its most simple version. And if you have questions about the database specifically though, I definitely recommend checking out YouTube, checking out Notion, playing around with it for yourself because it's very user-friendly. Or if you have specific questions, put them in a comment and I will be more than happy to answer to the best of my abilities. I hope this helps showcase how I use this for my D&D games and how you might use it for yours. Let me know what you think below. Let me know if you use other apps like Obsidian or anything else. I have tested quite a few note-taking systems in my day, and I definitely have thoughts on all of them. If you're unsure whether Notion really is for you, a really great trick to do is to just create for yourself a basic table. On the side of the table, write what you need it to do. For example, I need mine to print, and I need mine to have low friction, aka be fast for me to use. I'd like it to sync across multiple devices and be accessible via a browser window. So put on the side of your table the needs that you have, and then put across the top of your table the different apps. And then just start running through the apps and checking in the boxes and find out which app checks in the most boxes. In fact, here's a picture of me doing just that in handwritten form. But I definitely highly recommend Notion. Is my favorite of all the organization note-taking apps that I've come across thus far. And let me know what you think. And until next time.
All I want is you.